Canucks go down 3-1 to the Flames. I thought that overall they played pretty damn well for the most part. It just seemed like in the third period, the Flames, just like that Toronto game, the Canucks had two strong periods. They were moving the puck well. They were playing with a lot of confidence. They're making things happen. And then Calgary just stepped it up in the third period. Outshot them, I think, it was like 12-7 at one point. Stormed back. Markstrom held the Flames in big time to open it up. And you could just see that he was in the Canucks' heads where they started making one pass too many. And they're looking for that perfect shot, especially on one of the power plays. And, you know, that stuff's going to happen. And that's what Markstrom does, and that's why he's so damn valuable and why the Canucks looked a lot better than probably they were last season. So let's get into this game. It opened up. Myers got stuck in his own end. Bailey panic dumps it right into Sutter's face. And there was a goal light going off above Markstrom to open the game. So it's sort of a funky little start. Vancouver draws a power play. 40 seconds in, the Canucks have a nice breakout. Pass from behind the net. Forward motion catches the Calgary defenseman Static at the Canucks blue line, and they trip Pearson. So the Canucks were looking like they had an opportunity to start this game off strong. On the power play, you had the usual movement between Pettersson and Hughes, but Pettersson was a lot more willing to use his shot and just shoot right away, get a big slapper off. That was nice to see. Hughes was looking really confident and a little faster than normal in this game. He had a great passing play with Horvat that gave Hughes it was a give and go with Horvat streaking down the left and passed into Hughes, who had a chance right up front. He just kind of got a stick in front of him, tried to chip it past Markstrom, but Markstrom was looking calm and tall, and it looked like you needed a perfect shot or a lucky one to beat Markstrom tonight. And that's definitely how the Canucks started playing around him. Pearson on the second power play unit, he was checked in the neutral zone for a near Calgary breakaway, but Brock Besser hustles back to break it up without taking a penalty. There were a lot of great Canuck defensive plays where they didn't take penalties today. I was pretty impressed. I think they must be making a better effort to not take penalties, or just the fact that when you're playing better, you tend to take less penalties. The refs kind of see it your way. There was a moment where I think maybe Horvat or somebody, or Beagle. Yeah, it was Beagle. He was chasing down a flame in the flame zone towards the wall, swung his stick around. The flame dove. From where I saw it when the play was happening, definitely looked like he was going to get called for a trip. And then on the replay, you could see the ref see the guy fall over, and he just waved it off. The Canucks forwards were coming back a lot to help with the breakout in the first period, and this led to Horvat also breaking up what would have been a really dangerous Calgary offensive chance. So the forwards were, with this system, the team was looking really, really good. The way that they looked when they were playing in Toronto and in those first couple of periods. A lot of motion. But I guess it kind of comes down to they just kind of have a lack of talent in the bottom six, where they're able to get these chances and they're able to control play and get shots. But when it's Roussel and I love Beagle, but Beagle, or Sutter, or Bailey, or Gaudette, these guys aren't putting it in. I mean, the rest of Vancouver's top talent wasn't putting it in either, other than Besser's goal. But Markstrom was just fantastic tonight. He had a few huge saves right in the early opening. Markstrom did, to keep it scoreless, and Demko made some pretty nice saves later on as well. It was nice to see the former goalie teammates duel it out. I thought earlier on, and for most of the game, Miller and Pettersson looked really, really dangerous together. They looked like they were confident. They were taking an extra step. They weren't forcing passes until later on. And yeah, they look like they're starting to gear up really well, like what I'm seeing there. Vancouver had 10 shots to 2 halfway through that first period. I noticed something the top lines were doing is they would kind of break in with their wings, and they'd have the center or somebody trailing in, and that sort of pushes back Calgary's defense, and then they would have a drop pass in the zone, and it usually led to somebody in the slot, either Miller or Horvat, usually getting a pretty good chance. Calgary, I noticed, other than the Lucic hit and some Giordano stuff and some Kachuk stuff, generally they weren't playing super physical. I noticed Pettersson at one point, he was coming in on the left boards through the neutral zone. Just him onto Flames, and I thought he's going to get rubbed up big time. And he didn't. Maybe it was because there were too many cooks in the kitchen and the two Calgary players couldn't decide who was going to do the rubbing out. But I just feel like if they're playing Montreal or Toronto, that is something we've seen this whole year, is Pettersson and Hughes both getting played a lot more physically. Man, the Canucks had, they had a nice stat that this season is a brand new record for the Canucks with most games played in the first 27 days of that season, with 16. The last time they got that close was 15, the previous record in 2016, 2017. Yule Levy looked pretty good tonight. He had a really nice physical play to disrupt scoring chance in front in the first period. And later on in the game, near the end of it, he was being pressured one-on-one, and he just stuck with the player. Didn't take a penalty, pushed him off the net, stayed calm. I was really impressed. And for a lot of this game, I'm really still loving the Pearson, Höglander, Horvat line. They're fast, they're strong, they make things happen on the boards. They just cause all kinds of havoc, and it's just like playing pinball with 3 pinballs. I love watching them play. I love that the Canucks are getting this 1-2 punch of the skilled line of Miller, Pettersson, Besser, and then this just sort of chaos line that comes in there. If they're going to need another line if they want to compete, but so far they've got 2, and that's getting there. And those are the ones that are the hardest to find anyway. Oh, the Canucks took a penalty at this point in the first period. There was a long pass to Gaudette, who couldn't hold it at the line. This caused a turnover, and then Bailey took a penalty trying to cover for the defense. The Calgary power play got a few entries, and then about their 3rd or 4th entry, they held possession for a really long time. Canucks defense started slowing down. Giordano had a really nice, low, quick wrist shot, and it went off Ben's skate and in. Ben was trying to remove one of the Flames players from sitting in front, something you like to see. An unlucky bounce. It's kind of this was at the very end of the first period, and the goal was about a second or two after the power play expired. I think that they should count those. I think, if they're in the zone and the opposing player from the shorthanded team has not got back to the zone, that should count as a power play goal. It's still 5-on-4. I mean, I know there's the pressure of that player coming, but they're not involved. It's 5-on-4. That happened, right in the last minute of the first period. And this is a period where the Canucks have played really, really well, and then just took a stupid penalty off of a forced play. One of the bad habits they've had in the season that has really bit them in the ass. But they came out strong in the second period. Also, the Flames were also coming out strong in the second period. The Flames were pushing hard. This is where the Canucks did start falling back on some of their bad habits. A little bit lazier play, some more Hail Mary passes. Not as bad as they were in the third, but the second period you could see that they were losing a bit of that momentum, or Calgary was playing better. It's usually a combination of the two. Lucic crushed Bailey into the boards, and Bailey looked like he hurt his shoulder. He went down right away, favored his shoulder. And I think Sutter went over to talk to him, and he was pointing to it, and then he went right away to the dressing room. At this point, I can't even remember if he came back, but I do remember seeing a whole lot of Antoine Roussel, who actually had a pretty good game. He didn't take any penalties, and he had a couple great defensive disruptions. Brock's goal. Petey in the Canucks zone. Dekes through the legs of big muscly Lucic. A long-range bank pass springs Brock Besser. Besser races in, gets a shot off. Markstrom, Besser, and the Flame defenseman can't see the rebound. Brock finds it first and pops it in. That's a nice, exciting goal. Get you back into it. It's 1-1 at this point, but it wouldn't stay that way. I noticed on a play following this, I see Gaudette in the D zone. And normally when you watch Gaudette, he's racing around. He's moving as fast as he can, which generally just sort of causes mistakes. He was slowing down in the D zone. He was taking a bit of ownership with it. He's the center. He needs to hold on to the puck You're the point guard. You need to set this up. And he did. He did a nice kind of wind up, slowed things down, watched it develop, passed back to the D, snuck in, took a nice pass, a nice long 2-line pass, split the D, had a great chance. He couldn't finish. You could hear him smash his stick into the boards off camera. Myers had a nice sequence really deep in the offensive zone. I was watching him play, and I thought, I guess if he'd have to be faster to be a forward, but man, he may be a nice forward. Sort of like Dustin Byfuglien, except Myers can't skate as well as Byfuglien. He's too slow and he gets tired too fast. Anyways, while he was deep down in the ozone, this caused or allowed the Flames to break out on a partial breakaway. But Myers races back and with a big long stick, gets it around for a perfect poke check. No penalty. No penalty on that. That's usually where you would take one because you're feeling stressed, like, oh shit, I'm caught deep. I need to make up for it. I'm going to do whatever I can and just blah. But the Canucks had enough confidence to play within themselves and calmly take the right, just make the right move. I thought that was pretty smart. Obviously, it's pretty smart. But it's just, at that point, I've been so trained from watching the Canucks and especially Myers this year that they were going to take a penalty there. And he didn't. Bo Horvat had a borderline slashing penalty. He did whack at the guy's stick, and they're calling that stuff. And I see why. You know, I went back and watched the end of the 1998 Canada-Czech Republic Nagano Winter Olympics game. I wanted to see Trevor Linden tie it up right at the end. It was really exciting to put it into a shootout that they lost. But it's amazing how terrible the hockey was back then. As the Canadians are starting their breakout, there's just people grabbing them, hooking them, slashing. It looks like a completely different game. And it's near the end of a gold medal game, right? So the refs weren't going to call anything. And that was, 1998, that was a rough time for hockey. It's actually when I really started getting into hockey. So I like that they're calling these plays. That some can be kind of ticky-tack, but they're doing it because they're trying to teach the players to stop doing that. Get your sticks out of there. If you're desperate and you've got your stick in there, just move it. You know, if you're not close enough, do a poke check. Anyways, the Flames score 1 second after Bo's penalty expires with a point shot that goes right off Schmidt. Schmidt kind of had his stick up and he sort of hit it in like Darth Maul with a staff lightsaber. Schmidt looked pretty pissed. It's hard with defensemen to judge your games because you generally just notice their mistakes, and Schmidt doesn't really have a great shot. He does a lot of things right, but he seemed to have a few more than usual rough moments in this game. For $6 million, I still like him a lot more than Myers. I think Myers is just, God, man, I wish he was not on the team. To see him take up that much money, just terrible. $4 million max, and even then. But Schmidt struggled a bit more this time around. But I think overall he's still providing enough speed and sort of calmness. And the Canucks need all the veteran help they can get on the defensive end. Ben is a third pairing guy who's forced to play on the top pair. Hughes is still pretty new to the league and plays a risky style. Edler is very old, and his experience can only take him so far before he gets into penalty trouble. And then you got Levy, who I think really stepped up. He was moving pretty well, some good passes. He was starting to look really confident. I felt like he was really taking ownership of his defensive pairing when he was on the ice. He wasn't doing that rookie thing where they were just immediately passing it away. He was being smart. He was holding on to it. He was dictating the pace. He wasn't afraid to slow down. There was a great sequence at this point where Pearson, near the end of shift, or maybe near the end of the previous line shift, anyways, it was just him. He takes a look. He realizes his teammates are changing. He's all alone. He dumps it in, and he doesn't just peel off. He goes in. He pressures them. Keeps the puck alive. His line mates get back on the ice. They're working it down low. Horvat's there. Höglander, the pinball line are just a wrecking crew out there. And Höglander draws the penalty. I love this guy. I want to get a Höglander jersey. What would be the best Höglander jersey? I think he would look good in a flying skate jersey. That sort of yellow, orange, red, chaotic mess. The mean blacks and the yellow to highlight his elbows as he's smashing people or doing that quick elbow he does to people when they're hitting him from behind. We had a bit of 4-on-4 action. Canucks had some pretty dangerous possession, but they were making a lot of passes at this point. This is where they were really looking for that perfect shot to beat Markstrom, where they were looking for... You could tell they were sort of scared to just take a regular shot. So that was too bad. But it is what it is. When Markstrom shuts you down like that, that's going to happen. And they couldn't score. But the good news is that going the other way, Demko also had a huge save. He had to face a few point-blank shots. A lot of partial breakaways, which were basically how a shootout should be, where they were all alone, but not able to slow down and basically change direction like they do in shootouts. I hate shootouts. I think that they just are nothing like the real game. They're nothing like a breakaway. They're awful. I just think goalies are going to hurt themselves in them. Although we've had shootouts for a long time now, but say please get rid of them. Just put a little bit more OT. Have a tie. Give people more points for a win. Make people want to play for a win. Be more exciting. All right. After this sequence, that's when Ulevi had the really nice one-on-one play. Working the body. No panic. No penalty. Sutter dipsy-doodled and drew a penalty. The Canucks started shooting a lot quicker now. They're really surging to tie it up in the third. The second Canucks power play unit was looking good, but Myers forces a pass as the power play ends and the lines are changing. This gives another partial breakaway, and Calgary scores. And that was basically it at this point, when Johnny Gaudreau got that one. Höglander, though, he's so smart. He dumped it in, and this was late in the game where probably looked like they were going to lose. And he didn't chase it down in his normal way, and I thought, oh, maybe he's slowing down a bit or playing kind of lazy. But I should have known better to doubt that little bastard, because all he did was he was anticipating what Markstrom was going to do. He went to a different route, and bam, stole it. The guy is a bloody genius when it comes to playing down low, working the boards, working the dump-ins. I love this guy. Hughes and Edler got caught on an extended shift stuck in their zone. There was a giveaway by Edler. And I thought, oh my God, here comes another goal. And old Roussel comes up with a nice poke check. And Roussel had another great D play later on in the third, bailing out another time when Edler was abandoned. Around 8 minutes left in the third period, the Canucks were getting really overwhelmed, making bad passes again, lots of dangerous giveaways, Flames just getting all kinds of shots, and that was it. That was the game. So overall, I'd say it was promising because the first 1.5 periods, Canucks looked pretty good. I think if Markstrom wasn't so dominant and the Canucks had maybe a bit more talent on those bottom lines to score, I think they could have got at least one more. But Markstrom was incredible. Maybe he just knows these guys. He knows where Pettersson's going to shoot. He knows where Miller's going to shoot. Maybe Markstrom knows a lot more about his Canuck players than the Canuck players know about him, because he just looked so calm. When you're playing well in net, it looks easy because all you're really doing is just facing the shooter and waiting and waiting and waiting. And he never blinks. He doesn't overcommit. He's such a great goalie. Let's take a better look at these goal scorers. He's such a great goalie. I mean, this is going to be the hardest year for us to judge all the players that the Canucks lost in free agency. Tanev, Toffoli, Markstrom, because they're still young, right? And I mean, Toffoli's really not that old. Markstrom, it's going to be unpredictable how he's going to play. I hope he has I hope Markstrom and Tanev both have great careers in these contracts. I wish them the best. They gave a lot to the team, especially Tanev. The guy gave most of his teeth to this team. And there was a funny moment where they played some video, a tribute video that would have made a lot more sense if there were fans there. And they showed the tribute video to Tanev, Toffoli. Oh, Josh Levo. He had a couple good chances tonight. And Markstrom. And then they did a split screen trying to get the reaction shot of them. And Tanev was looking up as he was sitting down, but Markstrom had his back to it. You'd think that Tanev would be the one who was the most offended. I mean, Markstrom wanted that money, and he went and got it. Whereas Tanev, they did him dirty. He gave everything he had for 10 years, and they didn't even bother talking to him. I think he's the kind of guy that would have taken a bit of a discount. I think he would have taken less than he got in Calgary to stay in Vancouver. And yeah, he's a bit older, and he gets injured, and who knows what you would have got out of him. But at least when players get injured, put them on IR. You get some of that cap money back. You can bring up some young guys, a Jalen Chatfield, Brogan Rafferty, that type, a Rathbone. Hopefully Ulevi would have already been up. You don't want to live in the past, but since I did the tribute, we might as well talk about it. That's the one that really sucks. Also Toffoli too, because you just think, man, they could have used it Toffoli. Because with him around, now you've got somebody on that third line that is a legitimate scoring threat. I mean, I guess it probably would have bumped Höglander down, because they would have kept Besser on the top two. They would have kept Toffoli probably on the top two. But Höglander would have been... I mean, he can kind of do a lot of things himself anyway. So... yeah, I think it was promising. We'll see how it goes going forward against Calgary. They got, 3 more games against them? 2 or 3 more games against them. And there's a lot of physical action. They look like they're getting under each other's skin, the two teams. Tkachuk was getting in there. Roussel pulled Tkachuk's helmet off. Of course, Tkachuk's got those lines razored into his head. That young scallywag. I enjoyed the game. I felt like the Canucks were in it for the most part. Not until maybe about the last 8 minutes of the third did it feel like, okay, it's over. But those top 2 lines were really fun to watch. It's obvious their depth scoring really took a hit. Although I thought Gaudette played a better game than I've seen him play for most of the year, I still think he's just doesn't have it, to be honest. And to be harsh, I just don't think he's an NHL guy. I don't think he knows how to get those other kind of goals. Who else can we talk about before we call it a night? Oh man, I was watching the Flames penalty kill, and I'm thinking, who's this defenseman? Just like shutting down Pettersson constantly. Knows exactly where to be. Giordano, man, is he good? He's still good. He was great. Goudreau was all over the place. Monahan was all over the place. I thought Josh Levo had a decent little game, although it only says he has 1 shot on goal. Although TSN was saying on their site that they think the NHL's not tracking their stats properly. Main Japani had a good game. Big Sam Bennett, he felt like he was all over the ice tonight. Now about these Canucks. Brock, I thought, made some pretty good plays. I still don't think he's worth $7 million. It doesn't mean I don't think he's good and above. I think he's above average. He's got a great shot. He can make some decent plays. Just not $7 million. Miller looked pretty engaged, man. 23 minutes for him, playing on the penalty kill too, and all those power plays. Sutter, rough night for him, -2. 16 minutes. I mean, what are you going to do? There's just not a lot of talent on their bottom 6, and the defense is a little thin and young. Roussel was one of his better games. Horvat looked more dangerous than he has in quite a while. Pearson has just really impressed me this year. Zach McEwen, man, he did not play. 3 minutes of ice. Why? Why did that happen? just from penalties? Because he was playing on the Bailey line. You see, that's what happens is when Mott goes out, and then they move McEwen to play with Roussel, who plays a lot killing penalties, and then Bailey was hurt. You think McEwen would have played a lot more. That was a bit crazy. What the hell happened there? I like McEwen. I think that he's not a liability out there. I feel like he's pretty smart with the puck. He can move it around pretty well, and he makes some decent plays. Him and Mott and Beagle have been my third favorite line of the year so far. Beagle's pretty good. He's a better playmaker than Sutter, that's for sure. Sutter's got the dipsy doos and the shot. If only they could be combined into one. And Gaudette, 12 minutes, 38 seconds. Pretty good, but no finish. But, I mean, none of the Canucks other than Besser had to finish. So, at least he was making plays this round. Didn't really notice too many of the defensemen struggling other than Myers, but, Myers shouldn't be up at 24 minutes. That's when he's going to start making mistakes. Just how it's always been with him. Hughes looked a lot more confident. Levy looked pretty confident. Could have bumped him up from the 10 minutes that he got. I just think probably because with all the penalty killing. And your scratches. Jake Virtanen. Trade rumors. I guess we better scratch him. I guess that means that either the trade rumors were true or weren't true. They were true and they're trying to save him for the trade, or they weren't true. And now they could just scratch him. Or maybe they were and they're like, don't let him play anymore and bring down his value. They think he's good. And old Louis. Louis will go back to the taxi squad. And Jalen Chatfield. He had a long run and he got stuck playing some of the Canucks' worst hockey. He had some moments where it looked like he was part of the solution, and he had a lot of moments in the last few games where I felt like he was a part of the problem. So I'm happy to see Levy get in there. And these guys can rotate in and out as they're having their struggles and their successes. Anyways, that was Calgary versus Vancouver. And when do they play next? They're going to play in 2 more days. We're going to do it again. So that'll be great. I'll have a video up probably tomorrow if I can think of something to talk about. And I'll have another post-game up. This is the first time doing a post-game stream. Just seeing if there's going to be any interaction with people. There wasn't. But that's all right. We'll be back in 2 days after the game. And maybe tomorrow.